you at home, Lisa asked, why are textures square and in powers of 2? I said, I don't know. So, powers of 2 textures. So,
Because everything else computer related is in powers of 2.
yeah, it's a thing that it's always happened, and so how it's allocated to space. But what they'll say is ultimately this is a thing that's not an issue as much anymore. But square is definitely easier for workflow because the UVs, it's easier to map it onto stuff. Yeah.
I think the reason why the textures are by 2 is because sometimes you have to do the sampling.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do sampling like very low level, like OpenGL level sampling, you
Mm-hmm.
you probably need to do like by 2 and multiply by 2 or divide by 2. So when texture is actually the size is power 2, makes everything easier.
Exactly.
Really?
It's for performance, right?
I used I used this. I don't know if you can see it wasn't 2 by 2.
It doesn't have to be 2 by 2 for sure. It totally just experiment with it. And if it doesn't work, then you probably did it wrong, and that's all. Okay, I can start with a blank one and week 6. And we'll do a starter kit, create project. And we're in Photoshop, and I'm going to do 1024 by 1024, and we're going to call this rainbow. I'm no Photoshop whiz, other people are, but I definitely know that you can create some gradients in some places. And I'm not that dumb, guys. I'm not that dumb. So I have a bunch of different gradients I could choose between. It's false modesty, Mahi. So I'm just going to create a quick little texture here. And there we go. That was fun. And that's the extent of our Photoshop for the day. So we're going to save for the web. It has all these wonderful colors. I'm going to do it as a JPEG. Hi. And there we go. I'm going to save it to my downloads. And it's called Rainbow. That's great. That's just really great. So I'm going to create a folder for my assets. And inside my assets, I'm going to have textures. And I'll import that. Cool. So let's make a material out of it. I'm going to just kind of customize my Unreal home here. This is my starter home. And there we go. So we stopped by IKEA and we got some new linoleum. And some swivel chairs. You can create a material of this texture. And it's going to be called M Rainbow. And it already has that texture in there because I created it by right-clicking on it and creating material from there. So there's a few properties we're going to talk about today, and kind of go through a little bit more. What do we have here as options for a material? So far we've touched maybe a little bit on transparency, translucency. We've definitely done all the other ones like metallic and specular and roughness, all that kind of stuff. But we can also go transparent and do some cool things with that. You can have things be masked. Masked would then have an opacity mask. This is just a black or white image, would then make things either visible or invisible. And then we have the option to do things that are translucent. And translucent means that it can have a grayscale. It can be partially opaque, and there's a gradient along the way. So I'm going to create some, I'll go back to Photoshop and just create one that's grayscale real quick too for ourselves. To mess around with. There we go. Habit. It's a smaller file size. yeah, it's just optimized. Okay. Then with this selected, okay, so we'll go over here with this selected. I forgot that only one monitor. Pain. I can click on T. I clicked T and then clicked animate a texture sample. And that texture sample will automatically bring in that black and white image because it was selected in my content browser. We've kind of seen that happen before with other different things. Just want to make sure that you knew that was consistent across in blueprints and also materials. And then I'm going to make sure that it has transparency, translucency. So if I do this, we'll see that where it was black, it'll be transparent, and where it was white will be visible. So the left side is black, and you can't see anything there. The gray, I think no, I could totally. So all these red, green, and blue channels are also just grayscale information, right?
So, but what happens if you, like, say, do like, values or anything, like, all combined? That's all just one day for the texture. Like, when you do, like,
I mean, yeah, it's a matrix of pixels, right? Left and up and down and left and right, and
well, I was wondering when you do because if you don't do a grayscale image, you're just going to put the value, the color, instead of just
oh, if I just did this,
yeah. Okay.
let's take a look.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, got it.
We could peek into this. I'm sure we could do this in Photoshop probably a lot easier and look at the different channels and see how that information works. I mean, this is kind of fun stuff, and this is what you get into with shader math anyway. Is going in to your well, I already overrid it, but getting into your imagery, you can go into your channels and see what these things look like. Like this is your red channel, this is your green channel, this is your blue channel, right here. There's grayscale, but when they're combined, they have RGB information. And there's no alpha here, so alpha wouldn't give us any information. What we're doing is tricking alpha by using grayscale information. So that's cool. We can get transparency that way. We can have some objects that we can see through. Yeah. If we saved this as a PNG and we created an alpha in the Photoshop file, yes. This is all color information. It would be a alpha of just a single value. If I went into the Photoshop file and then, where are you? And then just create a new one right there. New. There we go, there was one. So we go into here and then we use like, this tool and then deleted something, then yes, it would have an alpha. Here's my layers. Get rid of that. Content aware is a lot of fun. So that would be an alpha if I export it as a PNG. So you can do UI this way. This is how you can do text, and we'll get into more of this when we do particle systems, that kind of stuff. And also we'll do that a little bit today. I'm going to show you how to take a sequence from After Effects and bring After Effects in as a UI element, as an animated sprite sheet. All right, so we have these things. That's fun, but we like to let's apply it to our world. That's great. But I want to have some motion to this. I really need to have my trip factor raised a whole bunch. So let's give it a value. There we go. So there's two different tools that give us motion. There is, in this way, we have Panner, which can give us an X or a Y value. And then we have Rotator, which will rotate things. You choose what the center point is. And this is a cheap way of getting, and it just moves the UVs. And as you'd imagine, is it not going to animate unless I play? All right. Oh, I have to save it. We go back over here and we got to hit apply and save. And then it should just be animating because I have it set for real time. There we go. So now we're having fun, right? But I'm an artist, so
Because it's not showing the alpha of
right now it says centers x and y. So the center is x and y. That means it's 0.5, 0.5. That means it's in the middle, and the speed is at 0.25. I mean, I'm an artist, so I have to change things to make it to my own personal needs. So now all of our lessons are combined into one.
So I think it's like particular thing if you say like I want this mesh to have opacity.
Yeah, so I had to activate opacity onto, and now this is the other sides are also the same way, but our
Oh,
material
it says white.
our material is not two-sided. So if I made mine two-sided, I could see through it. So this is back in the main properties of the material. And make it two-sided right there. And we'll come back and save and apply. Bang for your buck, guys. Bodies in motion. Check it out, your value menu. There we go. Super simple, super fun. Everyone's happy. All right. There's one other thing that I think it only is on Windows. Let me scroll down, make sure. Let's see. Let's see if this works real quick. Okay, tessellation doesn't really work on Mac. If you have a Windows computer and you go down to this tessellation, it should work for giving a wireframe view of your mesh. All right, and these numbers, it's just numbers, it's just math. They don't know anything any better. I'm gonna make this like 10,000. I don't care. It just became a blur. It doesn't even know what it's doing anymore. I've confused the computer, so I win today. Let's just go to 100 or 1,000. There we go. Yeah, it doesn't know any bounds. Got fun. This is great. There we go. No one's sick, right? We should try this one in VR and see how it makes us feel. This is going to be no bueno. Okay. So we've already done a lot of that stuff. It's actually not white. That is transparency. It's seeing through to the clouds underneath. If I go to my sky and I delete it, then you see that it's just seeing through it. But man, that's really ugly. I mean, really artistic. All right, so let's move on beyond this. We'll keep that. That'll be around. We'll be. Oh man, that's making me sick. Yeah. Oh man, that is. We want it to be a lazy. Whichever ones you gave me, man. All right. So there is a. Have you guys ever heard of a sprite sheet? So a lot of people haven't. And last year I had to. So a sprite sheet is kind of like if you think about a 2D game like Super Mario Brothers or whatever. Each of our animation frames is represented by a still image, and then we have a node inside of Unreal that if we load sprite sheets in, we can then it will play back over the rows and the columns. We just tell how many rows, how many columns, and then we can use a let's say if we're doing something that's a small like circle that is throbbing or something like that, we can we can just have those different circle sizes here, and then have that animate and just use one texture for what could be a really large movie. It's a great way of saving space. This one is a piece of crap for sure. So I'm gonna dig deep into my archives of Unreal, and I'm going to look at an After Effects project that I made. That hopefully will still work a year later with updates to After Effects. No. Yeah. 7 days. Deal. And then he was gone. So I think that almost everyone probably has done a non-linear editor, if not After Effects specifically. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to create a quick black and white animation and then export it as a PNG sequence so that it is alpha and white text. That is all. I already have it exported. I just want you to see it in the timeline, and then we'll move on from there. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I'm going to make a week 6, and I'm going to post this in the week 6. New channel. Week 6, which is a place for materials and midterms and smiles. All right, so what I'm going to give you guys is a little script you can install inside your Photoshop that is going to be able to take all these layers, and we're going to help you make sprite sheets in Photoshop from After Effects. Let's try this again. I agree. Okay, so this is something I made in 2 seconds the other day. It's just Wingdings font. Yeah, I know we haven't seen Wingdings since '95, but here it is. And that's all, right? This is going to be either an alpha. Let's see if this is an alpha. Yeah, that's an alpha. So transparency where the black is, and that's just white text right there. And I can add to my render queue and then tell it that I want to export it as a PNG sequence, which is right there. And I tell it that I want it also with plus alpha, so it's millions of colors plus. RGB and alpha, and this will split out a PNG sequence, which I already have spit out. It's kind of like a baking show. And here's the cake coming out of the oven. And there it is. I'll make this a little bit bigger. And you can't see it probably because it's an alpha, but if I showed you, but I also made the other cake that was made incorrectly. And this is what it's doing. This is with using black as the background. So it's each one stitched together. This is like, you know, Edward Muybridge, right? This is a flip book. So I know I told you we were going to do more Photoshop, but we're back in Photoshop. And so when I import that script that I put on the week 6 thing, I can, first of all, let's see, load files into a stack. First of all, this is already built into Photoshop. Load files into a stack. I choose the files or the folder. I'm going to browse, and I'm going to find Bodies in Motion. week 5. New folder, final 2. And then it's just going to make a big stack of images on the right side where my layers are. And I don't know how many that was. It's like 120. Maybe I did half of that. And then, so it's like opening one. It's like a script. You could write these scripts. These are macros. It's opening up an image, copying, then pasting it in as a new layer in the file before it. It's like a 3-step macro. Then I could take this entire layer stack when it gets done, and I can export it into a sprite sheet. Okay, by going to scripts and saying create sprite sheets from all my layers, and I just tell it how many rows and how many columns I want it to be in. So right now I have 19 images loaded. It's like, oh, if you have one row, there's 19 columns. No, I want to have 5 rows, and it's saying there's 4 columns, right? So it's going to create a grid of these images. I kind of, I stopped this one because I've already made it. This is now the pie that I've already made. And so this is that. This is now every single frame all lined up. And I'm going to load this into, as you guessed it, yes, I'm going to load it into Unreal. And sprite sheet. And I'm going to create a texture out of this guy. But I'm going to put it on this box. Make the box bigger. Great. Sprite sheet. And the same way we're using the UVs to deal with to do rotating and panning, we're going to do a thing called flipbook. Flipbook right here. And the results will be in the UVs. And there's a lot of options. Is it going to tell me I have to be something else? It says it's a float 3 to a float 2. Okay, I'm just using an alpha right now. I'm going to come down to, I'm going to make this a mask because we're doing black and white, there's no grayscale. And I'm going to put this in the mask. Now the problem is though that I'm going to invert this really quick. I'll load this in. Sprite sheet's there. We have PNG. Let's just make a white thing real quick. Base color. Yay, it's not working. 1 second. Color, grayscale. Oh, there it was. All right. So there's my sprite sheet, but it's not going through it. I need to tell it how many rows and how many columns. 1, 2, I have no idea. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's a 6 by 6 or a 5 by 6, so let's make some constants. 5 by 6. 5 by 6. Number of rows. Number of columns. UVs. There we go. Presto changeo. What we have now is this texture, and of course we make it double-sided. We can see the other side of the box. right? So this is how you can do flyout menus. This is how you can animate, different kind of UX elements. So here we go. There we go. So instead of making a movie of this, which would be much larger in file size, I just have one texture that's 1024 by 1024, and it's now creating a movie by going through that sprite sheet. Yeah?
This way you can make like the top and bottom with material.
Yes. So if I didn't want the bottom to have a material at all, then I would probably need a UV map that's something different and just have it either get rid of the polygons or tell it that it needs to have a different material ID that I can then put a transparent material on. So that's great. So now, as of 4.13, Unreal now natively supports up to 4K video and of any kind of resolution in either H.264 or in .mov. If you're going to make your .mp4, which is H.264, if you haven't used it, I highly recommend Handbrake. It's free and it converts things really, really well for Unreal. I think it's French for some reason. I've already rolled one. So movies are kind of a weird thing in that they have to be put in a special folder. I'm going to find my show and folder view, Finder view. So I go to my project. If I go to my project into my contents folder, next to my content, or in my content, I'm going to make a special folder just for movies. And then I'm going to find a movie. And I think I got a 4K movie here. If not, I got this. There we go. There we go. That's even better. That way everyone's participating today. Movies, go up. And it says, oh, I've detected something. Sure, import that thing you detected. And it says green means good. Now we have another image. Another object. There we go. And let's go over to the content. And in our movies, we now have a media player. If I double click it, you'll see that we can play back the video. That's awesome. Look what we just did. Oh man, where'd it go? Oh, I think I'm in 412 anyway, so I couldn't have done a 4K. It was only 413, so we lucked out that I chose something that was of a smaller resolution. I probably would have figured that out for a while. But from this, I hit save. I can create myself a texture. Create a media texture. And from that media texture, you don't see it unless I actually hit the play button. Now it should be in the texture eventually once we have everything saved.
You're pressing Y on play on
The play,
yeah.
the play right there.
Yeah, so why do you have to control it?
Because actually we're going to control it via blueprints when we get into the actual scene. Right now I'm manually overriding it.
Okay.
Yeah. Once I make my texture or my material, there it is. Usually with these materials with videos, you usually don't want it in the base color. You probably want it in the emissive. It's usually a screen that creates its own light. All right. And also we don't want it to be default lit because it's not going to take shadows. It's going to be, there's a lot of options here, but we just call it unlit. And unlit doesn't take shadows. And now it's that crisp black and white, crisp black right there. This is not taking shadows. It has no specular. Now this material is kind of already playing. But if I hit play, is it still going to play? So it's not really hitting play. Oh, there it is. Is it hitting play? Looks like it's not moving. And that's just because we have to tell it to play. It could be on a key press, or it is. Yeah, it's going. But if I stop it here, it won't be playing. So what we want to do is override that and be able to have control over when it plays and when it doesn't play. So in our level blueprint, we're going to get a reference to the media player. So open level blueprints. This is a new kind of data type. We haven't done this variable. It's going to be called a media player. There it is. The reference to a media player. I can compile, and then I can choose which media player I want it to be. That's the one. Bring this guy out. Again, maybe give it a better name. This is going to be called Leap. Compile. Bring Leap out, and we're going to get it. We're going to get way in there, and then as simple as that, we're going to say play. Select down in here, and it's going to say media player play. And when is it going to happen? We're going to say that it plays. I'm going to hit P for play. And then I want it to stop. Let's see what else it has. I want to maybe rewind. There you go, media player rewind. And then pause. Not stop, but pause. When I hit O. Compile. Something's wrong because I don't have a target for it. So there we go. Easy enough. So where was the guys over here? Not playing. P. Playing. Alright. O, pause, rewind. P's for playing. O, pause, rewind. There you go. That's pretty much how you deal with media. And oh, okay. So I'm gonna do one last thing, and then we'll kind of move on. This one might be a big thing, though. We're going to go into make a. Let's see what we want to do today. We have so many beautiful textures already. We're gonna make a cone. We're gonna use a cone. Yes. You would have to give them each material IDs. If I go to this cube, and well, I won't really have a let's see. So if I go to the cube and I look at it as a static mesh, and I go to the static mesh editor, we'll see that it only has one material ID. If I highlight that, it's the entire cube. Right? You'd have to go to each face of each cube and save it in a digital content creation tool like Maya or Cinema 4D using like selection sets and create it. Like sometimes if you just drag a new material into each side, it'll create a selection set for you and create a new material. Then you can export that and then it'd be prepped. But it's definitely a thing that's not by default part of these things. But to answer your question in a more general way, anything's possible. Put your mind to it. Unless it's not, then you can't do it. Yeah. Yeah. So there we go with that. I'm going to go back to my content. And really quickly, I'm going to show you how to scale parameters. I'm going to talk about some material instances. So let's say I really like my rainbow, but there's a couple of things that I want to have a bunch of different ones, but I want to have like something very small change in each one of them. So what I'm going to do is, let's say for my emissive color, I want to have not just a constant. If I put a constant here, my emissive color is, let's see, that's just going to make it white. Let's see. All right, so that's kind of overriding it. If I can multiply it. by typing M and hitting the key, click. So now we have a glowing rainbow. But I want each instance of this rainbow to have a different 10. I want a different scalar. So I'm going to right click on this constant and I'm going to convert it to a parameter. All right? This is now a variable that I can access in my blueprints and I can drive this, okay? So it's given a none for a name and we're just going to call it, let's call it, whoa. Let's give it a name Bob. Bob. All right, and then we're going to do another scalar, and it's going to be for base color, and I'm going to make it a 3-vec. And I'm going to convert this also to a parameter. I'm going to call this one Ben. So the point is that we have a certain material, but if we want to change just like a small property of it, let's say like we have this awesome metallic texture, but we want it to be slightly green once and slightly brown another time and slightly something else the other time. If I right click on this material, I can create a material instance. This material instance will have a completely different interface, so we'll call this MI01, and then we'll create another one. It's like MI02. And this is a way of not having to create everything from scratch every time and just opening up some things to a parameter so that now I see, look, there is Bob and there is Ben. And in this instance of it, I want to make the emissive much higher. And in this instance of it, I want to make this a different color. I don't even know if this will do anything. Not really. I'll just take down this, the emissive to nothing. There we go. So that's completely different. And now I have, if I throw out a cube here, and another cube here, I have two different materials. This is now getting a little bit too crazy. So I have that one right there. So these are just instances of the same material. I was able to change these small parameters. And these can all be changed at real time, like at runtime. So I can hit play, and this has been allocated memory, so I can actually adjust this as I play my scene live once it's in a material instance. All right. So the once you have a material instance, there you go. Now we have two different things. These are the two instances of the same material right there, and we want to be able to drive it live. Material instances. I want to just set up some simple ones and maybe remove some of the eyesore that I've created previously, or start with a fresh palette. Let's just do a blank level, nothing there, and let's create some simple materials to work with just to keep it straightforward. So we're just going to do a straight color material, and it's called M color base. This is the base material. Save that. Jump in here. and we're going to do a 3 vector, which is RG and B. I'm going to hold down 3, click, and there we go. We have a color, and I'm going to designate it here. Doesn't really matter. In fact, because it doesn't matter, let's just make it the white color. This will be the default base color, and then we want to drive the emissive dynamically. We're going to make a dynamic instanced material. The color can also be the emissive, but we're going to multiply it by a constant. And if I added a constant there by pressing 1, I could drag it from over here, 1 constant, just like that. Same thing. Or I can right click and type constant. Constant. There it is. There's a few ways of doing this. Great. So at 0, there's no emissive, and I can. Now, look, that's crazy emissive. Here's kind of crazy emissive. That's reasonable emissive. But for now, we're going to turn it off. So I want to take the color. This is my base material, and I want to do 2 things with it. I want to create a few instances that are of different colors. So I want, if this could be much more complex, of course, but to save myself time of doing this again and again and again, I'm going to take the color and convert it to a parameter. And then when I create my instances off this base material, I can make each one have the functionality of this, but be a different color. I'm going to use parameter a name. For what we're doing, we're not going to be driving it live, but I can still give it a name, and it's going to be called color, which is pretty smart. There you go. Color is the name of this parameter. This is a vector parameter. This constant we're going to turn into a scalar parameter. It's going to be a single vector. I'm sorry, a single value. In this case, it's going to be a float. We convert it. Let's give it a name, and we're going to call this one music. And somehow we made a comment as well. We're going to recover quickly and call this one lowercase music. Great. So we're all primed and ready to go. This base material is done. We won't see this node-based interface for materials for the rest of this tutorial or this demo. We're just going to be making instances of it. So this is this base color. Now let's create an instance, and we can call this material instance mi blue, and then go back to this base, create another one, and we can have mi red, and then we can do mi green. Hope this is not too boring of a selection for you. So I can't really change it unless I make it available to me, so I'm going to say yes. Color and music, these are things we want to drive. Color for this one, actually music we're going to be driving live, we're going to do this later on. We're not going to make it dynamic now, we're going to make it dynamic in blueprints. So this one is called blue, make it blue, simple enough. Let's drag it over here so we can come back to it later should we need to. We need proof that we made it blue. Green. Same parameters. Made an instance of the green. And then yes, without further ado, red. Hit the check there. We can do it one by one. Or I can just do here, do the color picker kind of thing. And then I'm going to save everything. I'm going to go back to the beginning and say save all. It's going to let me save the materials. Maybe even save the level. No, not yet because I haven't put anything in the level. So it is time to put something in the level. let us do a sphere, a cube, wake up, there we go, and a cylinder. Let's zero these out. Let's make it easier to manage. 0, 0, 0. 0, 0, 0. I need tab to go between the values. 0, 0, 0. Oh, there's 2 cubes. That's funny. 1. And sphere, which is 0, 0, 0. Now we're looking at there. Let's zoom in, set up our level the way we want. Whenever we play back, it's going to make us play back the current camera location, but we don't have a player start. And then just sphere. Simple enough. Cone. Come on over. There you go. Now if we hit save, we can save this level as let's just call this one dynamic instances. Alright, so let's make them dynamic. Let's first give them material, material, material. Take all 3 of these items, go into level blueprints, and we can either probably create reference to all 3. No, I'm just going to drag them in then. All 3 actors, there we go. Boom, boom, boom. And each one only has 1 material. It's very simple. We could have multiple materials on an item, on an actor inside the world. But for now, we'll just get proof of concept going. So now the cone, we're going to, we want to allocate that it's dynamic. We want to be able to create it as, not only is it's already an instance material, we want to make it a dynamic instance material. So on the event begin play, at the very beginning of what we do, let us create a dynamic instance material. So we're just going to say create dynamic instance material. Boom, this is all things I need to know. I only have 1 material, so the index for the element is 0. And then the source material, we've already put it on there, but we could have done it this way as well. We're going to have blue. Actually, I don't even know what I have. Cone. Cone is blue. Actually, let's see what happens. So cone's right here. We're going to see when we hit play. It's going to turn blue, maybe. Actually, let's just find out right now. So I think we can play. It's going to compile. Compile. Save all. Alright, so we're now watching this cone. Let's see what happens. Then begin play. Well, there's no light because we need to make them the object, the base color. Let's make it unlit. Base color, and it's going to be unlit. That way it'll just glow in the dark. We don't have any lights. No complications. And now let's make the default of this be 1 so we can see it. There we go. We now have a emissive color, we can see it. It's great. Come back to the world, we hit play. There they are. And look, that cone turned blue because we set it on event begin play to be blue. We can make it red. Doesn't matter, but we're overriding it. We're overriding whatever is the default, which is kind of powerful. MI red, and I could just kind of hit Control W and duplicate this. The cube, it's green. Let's just keep it green. Yeah. Let's just keep it green. MI green. And this one we could just kind of go the other way. Create. Create dynamic material instance. And this one's going to be the blue. MI blue. MI blue. And now we need to make it happen on event begin play. But we can only do one event per. We can only send out one event per. So I need to use some flow control. If you right click, take off context sensitive, you can come down and you can see flow control. These are very functional, utilitarian things that, let's type it in, flow. Flow control underneath utilities. So let's take it out. And then utilities. Let me see flow control. These are things that are useful for how we send out our events. And this one, I think we've used flip-flop once, where it has two different outputs and it alternates between those two. This one's going to be a sequence. You might think, oh, one happens after the other. They do, but they're also on the same frame. Add another pin. So it's on the same. It happens at the same time. There's some cases where we might get into where the order of this matters, but I can do any of these orders because I want all this to happen on that first frame. On frame 0, we say event begin play. So I'm going to compile, and now this is not really dynamic. It is what it is. Great. It is what it is. So these are now all ready to be driven. So what we need to do is set that scalar parameter. We want to set this music scalar parameter. So back in here, we're going to trigger some things with some key presses. And I have 3 different colors, so I'm going to do 3 different key presses. I'm going to do I, O, and P. So the first one is the cone. We are going to use a timeline node. Timeline node is a way of doing a curve or some sort of envelope filter. We're going to say timeline. And if we were diligent, we add timeline. If we're diligent, we give this a unique name. The default is fine for us. We do maybe want to play from start instead of play from just anywhere. Play from the beginning, and if I double click this, it's going to open up at the top here another tab, and now I have a place where I can add a float vector or anything like that. We can give this a unique name if we wanted to. I could make it 0. I can call it whatever. And then right now the length is 5 seconds. Go over to 0 and add a keyframe. So at 0. We're going to make it the value of 1 because that's what it's starting off as. I'm just going to make a keyframe anywhere. Add a keyframe. I can see it there. It's selected. I'm going to say a time 5. Let's be 20. And if I hit these numbers, it'll kind of scale it so I can see everything. And now everything fits inside the window. And I'm going to do a straight line. If I want to do a cool curve, I can maybe right click and use one of the different curves they have available for us, like a Bezier, to make it more of a smooth thing. Right now, straight's fine. Come back. And then whatever will come out, and it will set the scalar. Try this again. Set scalar parameter value. And it is on a dynamic material instance. We know that parameter on this one is called music. And we're going to do cone, cube, and sphere. Control W for duplicate. That's not how we do it. We're not doing the object anymore. We want to actually set the value on the material instance. So let's make some variables. We've done that before. I'm just going to right click, and I can just make that a variable. Make that a variable, and make that a variable. That's pretty cool. So now we just set these variables, and then at the beginning, and then we're going to drive them dynamically. So instead of referring to the object, we're referring to the material instance that's on that object. As we move this material instance around, as long as it's been set as dynamic, we can drive it at runtime. Oops. That was, we went all over the place. Come back to me. Great. Zoom back in. Let's get going so we can have some fun. Music. There we go. Can I do 2 with 1? Can I do 2 with 1? Oh, well, let's just do all of them at once. Let's get some bang for our bucks. We're going to drive all 3 of these. Over the course of 5 seconds, we're going to update them. I'm going to come back here and make it more interesting, and then we're going to use a flip-flop. Flippity-floppity. And it's going to play from start, and then when I hit it again, it's going to play reverse from the end. So this should work. Come back. I'll save all. Save everything. Then I hit I. Seeing they're glowing. That's cool. And then if I hit I again, it's going to come back. So now I'm using events. These events can be us triggering, trigger boxes with performers or rigid bodies. This is a way of changing dynamic material. We could be switching out textures. We could be driving the color change. We can, do more than just, we can increase shadows, increase specularity. Right now, the emissive is pretty telling. It's pretty easy for us to see. We can kind of rotate around and see. This looks great. So that's great. But now I want to move on, and I'm going to be doing a audio-driven emissive color. Okay. We are going to take one of these guys. Let's do Mr. Greeny, and we're going to make him a blueprint. So I can make a blueprint in here, right click and say make a blueprint. But also we can just say, hey, oh, these things are my scene. I see I might be wanting to do some more interactivity with them. I'm just going to add a script or make it a blueprint. It's going to have me save it somewhere. Create a blueprint. And now we've seen the scene in lab when we've created some blueprints before. And I am going to now touch on another subject called OSC messages. I'm going to jump to, and then also plugins. So we've seen the folder structure before, especially when we've been saving to SVN. I want to show in Finder as a shortcut of just finding my folder that everything's in. And next to content, and we've been doing this, I've been doing this for you guys in labs, but we're going to be doing it for ourselves. We're going to make a plugins folder. And maybe not yell plugins, maybe just say politely plugins. And now I'm going to go get this thing called OSC. OSC, Open Sound Control. You may have discovered it in your intro to creative coding. It is a framework of UDP, which is a low latency, lossy format of sending values and words, strings, floats, bools, ints, and it's how show control is pretty much done across the board. And the videos and the screens in Times Square, Madonna's most recent tour, and then most simply you can convert Arduino serial data to OSC and send it around to all your applications at once. There is one plugin for Unreal, and it's made by Mr. Gustav, and it's going to be called OSC UE4. It's on his GitHub, I think we're using 412. I am pretty sure the most recent version goes up to 412. We're going to look at the branches, and it says before the master just will work. So I'm going to download the master, download that zip file, and then we need to actually compile this. This is something that is very simple, but might be slightly intimidating if you haven't done it before. We are going to dive into the world of we're going to create a new 412 project because we want to compile it for the version of the engine we're using. I'm actually going to confirm which one I'm using, which is done right here. Help. Credits. 412. Great. Yay. We're going to launch 412. And by launching it, I mean I actually click the button that says launch instead of just thinking about it. But this time, because we need to do some compiling, we're going to create a new project, and this time we're going to use C++. We're not going to do any C++. It's just for it to compile. We need to be able to use, in this case, we'll be using Xcode, and Windows will be using Visual Studio. And you have to have those programs plugged in and installed already. I'm going to call this my 412. Actually, I can't start with a number. I'm going to call it compiler 412. Should I need to compile something else in 412, I can use this project again. We're just doing the plugin, so I don't care about saying giving it anything. No data. Don't want to take any more space. Don't need the code. Don't need anything. And then we're going to create that project. We're actively generating code. And Xcode will probably pop open for the first time. And oh, for me, goodness, probably since I compiled this for 411, which is actually a long time ago. In the meantime, we can go find that folder for our project and find that folder for our zip file. And we want the OSC plugin. Cool. Doesn't matter. Great to see you. Now go away. Wait for it to do its thing. Just quit it. Alright. Throw OSC in the plugins. Let's open it back up again. Does the same. Say missing or incompatible modules. Would you like to disable it? No. Let's see if it compiles it for us. So this is different. Windows, when you create the Xcode project, and maybe it's because I closed Xcode too soon, it will give us the option to compile it, and it will have a solution file, an SLN file for Windows. But we don't see an Xcode project here, so I'm going to go down to Services, and I'm going to generate Xcode project. It does not have any source code. You need to add, okay. Basically, I didn't let it create source code. Let's just say no. Let's go through the whole razzmatazz again. And because I closed out Xcode too soon, it didn't get a chance to generate any files. So it's going to quit. I'll go to plugins. I'll delete this. Hey, I'm making the mistake, so you don't have to. And more than likely, I need to delete this too and redo the jam. So let's go back over here to plugins, and we need to get some code in here. I lost my code. Wait, what am I doing? Oh, that's a mistake. That's why. All right. Anyway, let's go back to 412 compiler, plugins, OSC. This one has the Xcode project. That was silly. Didn't crash. But did it have that plugin in there? I don't know. Let's see. Could it be that we have... Oh, look at that. We now have OSC enabled. Okay, that's all it was, and we went too far. It has... I don't know why. Okay, that's great. We're done. So now I could take this plugin that's been compiled. I'm just going to take it now that it's been compiled. I'm going to copy. And we're going to come back to week 6 demo. And we don't need to compile it again. We can just have it in this project. It's ready to go. Open it back up. No errors. Come on, no whammies. Look at that. Now we don't have an Xcode project. So what I'll do is I'll zip up this 412 Mac version. We can make a Windows version for you too. And that way you don't have to go through this and stumble through this yourself. And we should have plugins. We should have OSC built in. That's super awesome. So it doesn't really say anything about the OSC plugin in the plugins folder. But if we go to the project settings, the wrong one. We go to the project settings, and we go down to the bottom. There's OSC. It has some features there. It wants to receive from port 8000. Also wants to send. Not worried about that. We're just going to receive from 8000. We'll keep that in mind in a second. Okay. We had a very lovely level before that was much easier to look at, and that one was called instances. And then we made a blueprint in here. So let's get some OSC in there without any further ado. Now, just like we saw with perception neuron, like we've seen some other items like OptiTrack, we now have an option in our components for an OSC receiver. Something that can receive data over a network, a local network. This OSC receiver can do some things. We want to trigger an event called OSC received. Boom. And we're going to have some data over the address, and it's going to trigger stuff. In this case, we want to on the event begin play, we are going to create a dynamic material instance. That was awesome. And this guy is green. Let's just keep it green for simple, but we can always override that. MI green. And just when it starts, there we go. This guy's ready to go. But we need to send it some data. I'm going to put a program called Max. I think the news version, as long as you don't save, you can have it for forever. And we're only doing very simple things, so you could just like keep on making the same thing over and over again. Max is fun because you can have like no interface and just start off with a blank slate. It's basically data flow programming, just like we're doing with Unreal, but there's no C++ behind it. It is coded in C and C++, but all the objects have like kind of novel names you just have to learn over time. We're doing something simple, and that we're trying to convert some analog data, which is like for right now my voice, to digital data, which is numbers we're going to drive. So that would be if I do N for new object, that would be an analog to digital converter. They have one with a cool interface that's called EZ ADC, Easy Analog Digital Codec. And look, we know what that is. That's a microphone. That's cool. We want to peek in at the amplitude, so that object is called peak amp. It's dealing with music data, sound data, so it has a little tilde at the end. Max does data flow, MSP does sound, and then jitter does video. And then we want to sample at a certain rate. We're going to do it 33 times a second, so once every 33 milliseconds. And then let's look at what number we get on this. And I'm going to turn it on. And now I seem to be getting a number between 0 and 1, almost 0 to 0.2. We want to go up to 20. I'm going to do a scale object. Scale from 0 to 1 or 2 from, and we want that to equal 1, because we don't want it to be invisible, 1 to 20. We're putting dots behind that to keep it all floats, otherwise we would cast it to hence. And if I now drag this number down here, I can see that my numbers are now getting much higher. Cool. And then we're going to send it on that port that we saw before. If we go back over here, we're going to send it to the OSC. Just plug it in on the local host on port 8000. Go back to Max. And we're going to be doing UDP send. We're sending UDP. It's going to be localhost, or we could do the 127.0.0.1, and the port is 8000. This number is now magically being sent on my computer as we speak. It's ready to go. So I want to receive it. And I can actually send it on an address. A UDP is being sent on a URL-like address that has folder structure. I might be able to bypass that, and just since we're doing one thing right now, just to the data, but it's better to do good patterns. So you would pass through variables with dollar signs and send a message to go on to music. Oh, we've already used music. Let's not get confused. Let's just call this good fun $1. All right. So now this is data that's being sent on a port called 8000, and then it's being sent on an address, good fun, that I could parse that out and not make it drive everything. I can send a bunch of different addresses, and I can plug in a whole bunch of things as an UDP send and send this stuff. All right, so we're rocking around to the sound of my voice. So the first thing we're going to do is make the address equal. So I'm typing in equal, and that name is good fun. Good fun. And the data is coming in here. We want to float. We're gonna. This is a structure. I think we highlight it. We'll say this is a structure. It's a whole bunch of data. We don't even know what it is, and we'll never be able to see it all. But it could be bools, floats, strings, and it's. I know that I want to take off a float. So in this case, we're going to pop a float. and we're going to say we're only going to take the float if it's on this address. The if statement in Unreal for data flow is called a branch. And the condition is true, or the condition is only true if we're on the channel good fun, which we're sending only good fun right now. So if we're on good fun, let's take that float number and drive this material instance. Let's send it to a variable. And now we're going to set scalar. We gotta type it in the whole thing. So set scalar parameter on music. We just did this in the level blueprint. Now we're doing a class blueprint. And that value, well, it's coming straight from Max. Cool. So when it's true, it's going to bring in that value from Max. Save. And let's hit play. Test. So now I have an audio reactive cue sending data from Max. Let's not click on the microphone on the laptop to bug everyone. But yeah, so hey, this is now, we go back to Max and we can do our scaling. Oh, there's an error. What's that error? Oh, this is because I converted. It's no longer part of our level blueprint, so we can't do anything with it in here because I created a blueprint out of it. So let's just delete that stuff. It no longer exists in our level. It's now a blueprint. Our level, the pile's fine. Go back to where we want to be. We can go to Max. We can maybe scale a little bit more because we want it to be brighter. And also something I want to do is make it have a sharp attack, but trail off. So it's an object called slide. So say new, slide. I want over the course of 1 millisecond, or sorry, 1 millisecond, jump up and then come down smoothly over 20 milliseconds. Let's bust that in there. Alright. Let's hit play now. There we go. Boom. Yes, I am. A little bit too much. But you get the idea. This can all be adjusted to max over the course of 5 milliseconds. Boom, boom. There we go. We have a little bit of music to code to. That's good for us. We're happy about that. And you know, from there it's all fun.